fourth day of training as a law enforcement executive, new incoming chiefs of police in the state of Indiana. With that actually being said, my education also undergrad degree, also attended the Southern Police Institute, with also the SPI, the Administrative Officers Course, a graduate in 140th session, and also the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Program. I'm also in session number 80, which I completed that through CommonConvo as well. So in 2022. So there's other trainings and other experiences I've had throughout my career that has brought me to a level of aptitude, of understanding and experience, and then having the 10-year executive experience of understanding in 2015, where we started with policing, and then where we evolved to in 2020, what happened occurred around the country, and decisions that had to be made and things that had to be done to understand what, as a society, that we come about that would not happen, or take one of the worst things we saw happen occur in our society, that wrongful abuse of policing. You have to stand up and call that out, and you have to have the courage, and you have to have the respect, and you have to have the dignity to call out what happened to occur, and then you have to be able to move on and lead a law enforcement agency. And I stayed in the profession because that was my choice. It's all my experience. And that's why I'm actually here today, to be able to further myself. And I want to say to Dr. Byers, myself, that this is what it is about. If you're going to run for this position, and you're going to run for this post, and you're going to do this job effectively, efficiently, and everything off of the table, you have to be willing to put yourself forward and answer and be for the people. Okay? We all have different platforms and agenda, but there's not a reason why, if you're running for this position and post and say, hey, I want to be the sheriff of Clark County, Dr. Byers, we want to be the sheriff of Clark County, this is what you have to do, and you have to be prepared to represent and lead people and being here. So it's a tough day and challenges, but I'm not going to shy away from that, and I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to give you 100%. And everything encompasses but being here, and I want to applaud Dr. Byers, but I'm saying that anyone that is telling you that they know how to lead, or they've been a chief of police before, I'm the current sheriff, you have to answer and you have to respond to people. And I had to learn that too. It's been in executive law enforcement leadership. And when we started this profession years ago, and things that we learned and we taught, and what we did from the 80s and from the 90s, you stayed separate. You didn't need to talk, you stayed away. And that created and that caused us issues and problems in this profession. So that's why I'm actually here today, and I applaud Dr. Byers here as well, to be able to share, confer, and understand. There's things I'm going to be able to take away from this and learn, while I still say that I am wanting to be the leader and be the next executive of the Clark County Sheriff's Office. And I have the ability, I have the capacity to be able to do that with strength, and I put that in the hands of the voters of Clark County to be able to make that decision to elect me to be able to do that job as your sheriff of Clark County. Thank you.
Thank you. One last question from this category of core leadership and vision. Given what Clark County experienced with the misuse of public funds under prior leadership, what specific safeguards would you put into place to ensure taxpayer money, especially in the jail and commissary system, to ensure that that is protected? You can start, Kenny.
What I will mention with that question, and that is actually a good one, and I'll use my time as chief of police. So 10 years, 10 budgets, 10 audits, everything there in place. Now, others are starting to come about. They will lead you to believe that my exit and tenure at the Jeffersonville Police Department as the executive law enforcement leader centered around being some type of financial issue. I released the information and put that information out and put that information forward. What I will tell you, that as you spend money, and you have the appropriated budget there in front of you, you need to follow the governed processes. And that's what audits will do that we have in place. The city of Jeffersonville appropriates budgets, and they have procedural processes that you will follow for contracts. Every contract that is there that is approved is on file, and you cannot pay a vendor, such as out of even the commissary account. We didn't have that, but for example, to pay anyone as a vendor, there was a standard budget, and for me to even pay them as a vendor, if I paid them out of the asset forfeiture account, which was separately managed by the chief and assistant chief at the Jeffersonville Police Department, we had to have that contract on file, and that had to be seen and had to be viewed. Also, the asset forfeiture account, when I started as chief of police in 2015, only had approximately $25,000 to $28,000. Again, that is maintained and possessed by the work and the conditions and being involved in the federal forfeiture program as a law enforcement officer with officers assigned to task force. And I did that for 8.5 years, being engaged and involved in that special assignments that I'd come out and I would go to the FBI task force to work and do that. So at that course in time in 2015, the sum of work that we performed in the year of 2010, some of those dividends and quantities did actually come back while I was chief of police that I was engaged and involved in 2010. And asset seizure and forfeitures came to that account. My exit upon leaving that account was $200,000 plus, and we started at 2015 somewhere about $25,000 to $28,000. So what I will actually do, and I'm sitting here telling you today, I will go through all audits. All audits will be able to be presented and shared with State Board of Accounts or whatever vendor service that the State Board of Accounts assigns for the city of Jeffersonville. That sub-vendor that actually does auditing for them is Umball Services. So also State Board of Accounts will also have a additional, where they cannot get out to all places at all times, they will have a vendor service come out and perform those audits. At the Clark County Sheriff's Office, I will participate. Also, with the commissary account, I will display and have those reports on file and ready for review. And also, as you spend out of that account, it will not take a period of time. If that has to be displayed or shown to anyone, it will be readily available because we will keep log and we keep contrast of what we're doing, where we're doing it, and how we're doing it. So that's not going to be a secret or a mystery to take a period of time to turn over. So we will actually present that information and we will actually have that there. So my experience as a chief of police, and I will compare that as a city of Jeffersonville and how we handle a normal budgetary process and budgeting, not to exceed or to go through or to go past what revenues that were prepared and the appropriations within the budgeted account, not to exceed that spending. And then also any secondary accounts such as the commissary and what I did with the asset forfeiture account, we will keep that and we will build that. And I will leave that in a better condition upon finding that. And that's what my plan is. And that's called succession planning and leadership. Making things and situations better and leaving it better than you found it for the next person. And that is serving and protecting people.
Thank you. Yeah.
We don't really know how much public funds were stolen. We don't have a clue. There's been estimates of $4 million to $40 million. We just don't know. Jamie Knowles' quick acceptance of a guilty plea kind of ended that investigation, so we're not really sure how much it was. About 5 years ago, I started calling that out and using my experience as a special agent with U.S. Customs doing transnational white-collar crime and fraud. And the monies and the numbers just didn't match. There was something wrong there. So I called it out, and a lot of people ridiculed me because they didn't want to believe that Jamie Knoll would do something like that because he's such a good guy. He was a state trooper, and I really like him, and he helped my son and all this. Well, he was sticking it to you while he was doing that. He took a lot of our monies. Everybody's taxes go down this year? Yeah, mine neither. Mine neither. And you know what we're paying for? Senate Bill 1 and Jamie Knoll. That's what we're paying for. I think it's important that we're transparent with all public funds. It's not my money, it's your money, it's our money, and we need to be perfectly transparent with that. Not only will we do a monthly audit internally of the commissary fund, we will also we will contract with an accounting firm to do a yearly audit from them. All of those audits and all the monies and expenditures from the commissary fund, including the money that comes into the fund, will be placed on a Clark County Sheriff's website. So you don't have to come down and ask for the report. If you want to see it, pull it up, download it yourself, and see what you think. If something doesn't look good, I would ask you contact me as quick as you can because we want to make sure that it's right and it's truthful and it's honest. Something that we haven't seen in Clark County and something that's sorely missing in Clark County law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to shift categories. So our next category will be addressing public safety and policing. So the previous scandal that Ed was referring to raised concerns about leadership culture. How would you set expectations for ethical behavior within your department from day one? Ed?
It starts with me. Integrity starts with the sheriff himself or herself, depending upon who's elected. This year it'll be a he, or it will be a he, himself. And that's important. You have to have integrity to espouse integrity, and you have to show it to teach it. That's not been done in the sheriff's department for the past 12 years. We've had a sheriff that was arrested by the FBI for giving prostitutes' official credentials so they could get government rates on hotel rooms. We, of course, had Jamie Knoll, who pled under 52 counts of public corruption, which was called at that time the largest case of public corruption in the state of Indiana. Still is, to the best of my knowledge, although Clinton County seems to be rising its head a little bit for us. But nonetheless, it's important for the community policing in that we do away with that lack of trust, that we look at in it as far as improvement. And that happens, I want to use three types of what I consider the three duties. A duty to intervene, that's if a sheriff's employee sees something that isn't right, excessive use of force, money being spent wrong, he or she intervenes. And consequently, right close with that is a duty to report. They have to come forward to report. If they don't, and we find out about it later, then they may be subject to termination. We have to clean ourselves up. And then after that, a duty to suggest improvements. Okay, you found this, you saw this, you experienced it. What can we do to make it better in the future? How can we make sure that this doesn't happen again? And I think that's all important in providing us a foundation of integrity so that we can rebuild public trust with you, the people of Clark County. Thank you.
Thank you. Kenny?
Absolutely. So understanding that where we've come from and where we are currently now, leadership modeling the way. So that starts with the person that is the executive leadership, and that is going to be the sheriff, then the sheriff who the sheriff puts around them as a chief deputy, and so on and so forth, and what that administrative structure looks like. You have to be willing to understand that you have to carry yourself with the culture and the culture of that organization. And I think that's one thing that we're able to do, and we're able to shift the Jeffersonville Police Department, that we're able to present ourselves that we're here serving to protect and put people first, and understand that community policing, yes, but it's problem-solving policing and solution-based. Because understanding where we are in now with more 21st century policing and that type of dynamic, and what the people are doing as they're doing their human performance as a law enforcement officer, a support person, a person that is working in court security, how we're demonstrating how we're going to perform to protect people and do the job that we're doing. So that mindset, and you understand what happened, what occurred, and how did decisions get off and get based, because people exhume themselves within power, leverage, advantage, and they couldn't control themselves. If you have a mindset coming from the leadership and what we're doing day in, day out, what we're striving for, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish and work for the people, and we're trying to be task-oriented, and we're understanding, we're concerned, and we're focused about you, and not each and every person trying to get ahead in the system. You're able to build something, you're able to accomplish something. So when your police department, your law enforcement agency takes an action, and that executive leader has to stand in front of you and has to give account, has to give answer, has to give presentation on what happened occurred, you know, as a citizen, you know, as a voter, that person standing in front of you, person is here present today, not someone saying, I can do it, I did this before, I can't. They can do that the right way, the just way, the professional, the ethical way. So that encompasses true modeling leadership. It starts day one. And what you're going to build at an agency with culture, what you're going to invest into with the people, and every day that job performance. We're not going to be there just trying to get through. We're going to be there trying to make an improvement in understanding public safety, quality of life. Those things right there. You're going to work on a foundation component. I said leadership, professionalism, integrity. It starts by when you come in the door and what we're serving to our people. We all understand where we come from. We'll need to understand where we need to go and what we need to do in us together, collective Clark County. I know when I go forward north to Indianapolis and other places, and you're from Clark County, we as other agencies, the brunt of it. Now I know the Port Clark County Sheriff's Department, we here together have to take it on that board, the Indiana Chiefs of Police Association, you're from Clark County. We all endure that. Jeffersonville, Sellersburg, Charlestown, Clarksville. So actions and behavior. So we need to change that and understand that us, Clark County together, the law enforcement, the platform, us being different, acting different, performing different, reaching to achieve sustainable outcomes and making a difference. Public safety and quality of life. That type of mindset and that type of focus, that can deliver us and keep us away from evil. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as I heard you name the different, cities in Clark County, we got, Jeffersonville and, Charlestown and Clarksville, and, Clark County is a pretty big county. So this next question perhaps will call on you to think about areas of further work. I'm a social worker, so I think about areas of further work. So what specific steps would you take to improve public safety across both the urban, or maybe this is more so township and rural areas of Clark County, because they all may have different issues? So what steps would you take to improve public safety across both urban and rural areas of Clark County?
Absolutely, and looking at the challenges that the sheriff's office face, so understanding, and let me give a breakdown. The sheriff's office has quite a bit going on. The sheriff of Clark County is responsible, first of all, by statute of the correctional and jail facility. Then that comes with actually getting the inmates around where they need to be and should be. That is to court, up inside the courthouse, also to other additional counties, jail transport. That is also courthouse security for the judges. Then also we have civil process. From civil process, then we have all the legal documents and order that goes with that and taking that paperwork. And then finally you move over, you transition then to the patrol division, that you see the deputies out on the street every day working out in incorporated areas and also working with the departments that I actually named. And also respect here, also with that Mayor Hodges here from Charlestown. Thank you. I want to note that part of those duties and responsibilities, so when you start speaking of that public safety and that peace and that component, then that is true partnership. No divide, no politics at all whatsoever. After it's done, we have to have partnership with each municipality, and then also with the number of officers out, we need to also ensure that how we're going to improve response times. There would be more MOUs, methods of understanding. We maybe possibly look at creating those, taking some assessments with analysis on response. Also, one thing I want to bring forward: critical incident response. How is the sheriff's office going to interface with other agencies in all these municipalities for critical incident response? Jeffersonville, we're known throughout the state, and one thing that we built, we have a Jeffersonville way that we do things. So what Jeffersonville is doing. Also, you shift over, you're going to be with Charlestown, how they're going to do things. Charlestown is a growing city environment, and they're taking new pages in the platform, and they're moving on, and that agency is going leaps and beyond what they're doing there. And then you have Silverbergers too as well. So you're going to interface, and then you have the Indiana State Police. How is the Sheriff's Department going to be able to model and platform and work with all these different agencies? So there has to be a fundamental relationship and understanding what we're doing and how we're doing it and who we're doing it with at that present time. So that's going to require training, understanding, leadership, and within that reorganization that I actually mentioned, I want to touch upon this, reorganizing the department from the top, the high end of those salaries. We did that at Jeffersonville. Cut out an assistant chief, cut out majors, cut out some captains, cut out lieutenants, and you bring that down also in the jail, the transport division, and also in the patrol division. You do first line supervisors. That way you've got direct governance and you've got more structured, oriented decisions, and we're going to reduce the litigation by accident and fault, what's happening, human error. We're going to perform better and be better, and we're going to have people to be there and be accountable to understand what we're doing and when we're doing it. Again, I spoke of the executive leader and whoever that sheriff is has to be willing to stand in front of you, give account, present account, give question, give answer, response when it is good or when it is bad. That has to happen and occur. And once again today, if you can't do this and you're not doing this, you're not seeing this, and you've been a chief of police before and you didn't do this, you didn't perform this, how do we expect or how do we see you're going to be able to have credence in this 26 election year to do this now? Keep that in mind. And that's what I'm hearing. I'm going to hammer that today. If you're not here and you're not willing, but you're telling people, oh, I can do this, I did this before, demonstration, job performance, what do we have happen, what occurred, and how did you feel about that leadership at that present time? Think back and look at memories. Also go back and start Googling and look at and seeing what happened, what occurred. That's going to tell you. I can only give you my experience, my dedication, my commitment, my account, and my willingness to go forward and be here for you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
What specific steps would you take to improve public safety across both urban and rural areas of Clark County?
In the United States, particularly other than Hawaii, which the county sheriffs in Hawaii are actually serve as their state police function, but county sheriffs in Indiana are specifically responsible for the law enforcement services for the unincorporated areas. It's not the Clarksvilles, it's not the Charlestowns, it's not the Jeffersonvilles, it's the new markets. It's the new Washingtons. It's the NAB. It's Marysville. Those are the areas that the Clark County or the Indiana sheriffs are responsible for, and in Clark County, it's those specific areas. So there's a difference there between what we can do when we liaison with other agencies versus what we have to do to provide services for those areas. My best friend is a farmer in Newmarket, Indiana, and about 8 years ago, he had a car go through his fence in his cornfield. Nobody was hurt, but they called the sheriff's department and requested a deputy to respond to make an accident report. Did some property damage to his property. They waited 4 hours. Nobody showed up. So what they did was they just traded information, got the guy's car towed, and the guy came out the next week and fixed the fence, and they called it even. That's wrong. It's very wrong. A couple of years later in Otisco, another friend of mine got so incensed with the Clark County Sheriff's Department on people that were stealing stuff that him and his friends went out and armed themselves, went to the suspect's house that they had identified previously to the Clark County Sheriff, and got their stuff back at gunpoint. That's not law enforcement, that's vigilantism, and we should not let that happen in Clark County. We need to be cognizant of the fact these people are asking for help and we're not giving it. Now, there are areas, incorporated areas, that have their own municipal police departments that we will have to interact with, either on backup, major critical incidents such as school shootings or possible school shootings, that sort of thing. And I encourage the deputies and to some extent the rest of the employees of the Clark County Sheriff's Department to work with their counterparts that are out there already working. I think that's important. I can go talk to the chief of police in Jeffersonville or the chief of police in Clarksville or Borden and ask them, can we get along? Can we play well together? And they're going to tell me yes, but unless the deputies that work that area and the officers that work alongside the deputies get along, it'll never happen. When I was a national park ranger at Saguaro National Monument outside Tucson, we worked very, very well with the Pima County Sheriff's Department. So well that it made our bosses work better together. They had to because we were working together. We responded to each other's gunfights. We got involved in each other's gunfights. We helped each other out a lot and became very close and very tight. That needs to be done here too. So you can say as an administrator that you want to encourage it, and you should encourage it for sure, but until the deputies and the municipal officers decide to work together, it'll never be done. So you need to lead from the front in that. There's also where cases intersect. Like if we have a specific case that we're working and suddenly a similar case pops up in Clarksville, then I would hope that the detective that's working the sheriff's end of that case would go talk to the Clarksville detective and try to see if there's any similarities. Can they work together? Can they trade information? Can they make a case together where they couldn't make one separately? That's important for law enforcement. It's always been that way, and it continues to be that way. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Let's move on to jail and corrections. What changes, if any, would you make to the current operation of the Clark County Jail? Ed, could you lead on that, and then we'll go to Ken?
Yes, ma'am, I sure can. I've talked a lot with former and current employees of the Clark County Sheriff's Department, and the one thing that I hear almost exclusively from everybody is that the corrections officers don't have proper equipment. They seem to be paid low. They need better pay. They need a pay that's consummate with the rest of the corrections officers in this region so that they don't leave to go to the Floyd County Sheriff's Department because it pays them better. They stay in Clark County and work with it. They need better equipment. They need radios at work. They need cameras at work. They need uniforms that fit. Basic things that we as police officers would normally have that they don't have. They need that. They also need to have an actual COs working in the jail as opposed to being assigned elsewhere. That ghost employment thing came back in the Jamie Knoll case, where people were paid from the jail funds, but they were out doing other things, particularly working on his pole barn or some of his cars, his classic car collection. That needs to stop. If you're paid from the jail funds, that's where you work. And also, I would like to see alternative sanctions brought forward. Of course, that would be working with the judiciary and the prosecutors, but I think that the overcrowding at the jail could be handled through alternative sentencings. You could have somebody on house arrest if they're not violent or not dangerous. You could have them on a work release where they work during the day and then they come back at night and spend the night. That worked very well in North Carolina, where people still could support their families and their homes, but they had to come back and spend the night in the jail. Then they were released in the morning to go work. As soon as their work was over, they came back to the jail, and they served their sentence that way. And that's a very good and appropriate way, I think, of resources and helping people. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Would you deliver the question again, please?
Yes. What changes, if any, would you make to the operation of the Clark County Jail?
So I would start with the people first. The personnel, the staff at the Clark County Sheriff's Office that are working inside corrections, I would look at the training platform and how it's being administered and deliver that. We want to give that, and also we want to lead them. They're young in their careers coming in, and that's where you start. That's where you start and you're starting your career in law enforcement, that you want to be a police officer. So we understand that you have turnover that occurs, and that is okay. It's positive because you have a lot of young men and young women coming in to start their career, and they want to further on and being a law enforcement officer, such as a police officer, go other places in law enforcement, not just for a police officer, but other aspects. So what you want to do is to make sure while you have people there, you're getting them trained and you're getting them in a capacity condition to be able to serve for that job and duties or responsibilities. So you start with that human performance aspect, and then you also look at coming in, I'm going to hit right on this note, and I'm going to stay with what I've been saying publicly. You look at the classification system, that is intaking, and you're bringing people in that are being incarcerated. We're going to look at it, we're going to have the right level of questions and information. We're going to take it and take that assessment. We're going to look at people that are repeat offenders, recidivism. We're going to look at how that's happening, how that's occurring, and understanding for the low-level offenses that are coming in, and we're seeing time and time again, what programming can we administer, or what can we introduce, or what we can look at if they're on probation in one or two different areas. It's being streamlined, how they're coming in to offend low level again before they get to something serious at a nature that's going to seriously hurt someone, or something that's going to keep them there permanently and they're not coming in or out. What can we do with programming, or what can we get engaged and involved with through partnership of someone such as I'm on the Life Springs Health System board, as a board member? What can an agency we bring in and get involved for them to try to affect them with quality of life services? That would be chemical dependency, substance abuse dependency, or mental health services. Okay, while we have that opportunity and while we're being there as a sheriff of Clark County, I will look at it from that platform and that standpoint. And you look at some of those other communities that are experiencing crime. I've been out and been talking to out in the New Washington area and out in the Henryville areas, that when people are experiencing property theft and crime, it's being driven by people that have chemical substance abuse, that type of social disorder, that behavior that's going out into those areas. So we can affect that, and we can actually affect that by the programming inside the jail to drive that down. It's not all we're going to be able to go and police our way out into New Washington and police our way out into Marysville, Henryville, or out to the Borden area. So we need to look at intrinsic value programming on what we can do through classification and other intermediaries, such as to deliver to the people that are in trouble, that 10% of the product that we see and we deal with, how can we affect them, and those that are offending and reoffending, how we can reduce the stop to eliminate that, okay? And that's what we work to do. We work to control crime and in the criminal justice system. So look at it from a larger scope and value, that the jail itself, quality of life, how can we affect these issues, and how can we inordinate some of these people. Also, I want to bring back that I've hit this information on the campaign trail. I am in support of having the ministry inside of the Clark County Jail. And I've been told by numerous persons, individual door knocking, that's an issue and that's a problem. I do support the ministry being inside the jail and giving people that faith-based opportunity, that exposure, while we have them in timeout, exposing them to try to make other decisions of moral compass and guidance to help these people with their problems, their addictions, their social disorder, to try to teach them something different and give them a pathway for quality of life. And that's how you then affect these rural communities and some of the property crimes and some of the issues and problems that are occurring through policing, we do it down at 501 East Court Avenue at the Clark County Jail. Thank you.
Thank you. You actually answered my second question, so I want to throw this question to you, Ed. So I'm going to ask Ed this question, and we're going to let him answer it, and then we're going to move on to another section. Okay. So how should the jail balance security, rehabilitation, and mental health support?
Ideally, those are connected. They're all connected to hopefully the successful incarceration of an individual that doesn't recidivate. Recidivism means they return to criminal activity and become arrested again. If you have to choose or prioritize between those three, jail security is the most important. You are responsible for the care of those prisoners. You have to take care of them. So jail security is important. We didn't have jail security, and quite a few women got raped in the jail because of that. Two people were arrested. One guy pled to a lesser crime. The other guy, they dismissed the charges completely, and he's suing them now under a civil rights violation. And that's going to be probably settled out of court. So that's a double whammy for us. Not only did they not catch the guys that impregnated the women that were in the jail, they arrested a corrections officer that had nothing to do with it, and it was proven. So that's going to be an interesting concept in and of itself. Mental health support is important because that is the reason that a lot of people wind up in jail, because they have mental health issues. My dissertation, when I got my PhD, dealt with the confluence of police lethal force issues and mental health. And I found that 60% of police lethal force issues had the people exhibited the signs and symptoms of a mental health illness. 60%. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. I think that the mental health support goes hand in hand with jail security, because if you can't have a safe jail, especially from people that are suffering from mental health crisis, then it's important that you do that. And then thirdly is the rehabilitation. You've got to give them a reason to want to stay clean, to not recidivate or to recommit crimes, and that you can be done with a wraparound services, including, as Kenny mentioned, faith-based stuff, 12-step programs in the jail, people that are willing to hire somebody fresh out of jail for a job to help them have give them a purpose in life, help them feed themselves and their families, so that they all kind of go hand in hand. They're all important.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the next section of budget and accountability. So this is just a straight out question. How would you manage? I'll let Ed take this one first, and then we'll move to Kenny. How would you manage the sheriff's department's budget, and where would you prioritize the spending?
Well, the first prioritization would be operations, because that's the most important part of the sheriff's department. It's not buying gifts for deputies at Christmas time. It's not for buying expensive vehicles. It's for operations. Secondly, after that would be the mental health issue that I just described. I think that's important and it needs to be addressed. Jails oftentimes, and including police officers when they respond, are the first encounters that mentally unstable people having a mental health crisis. That's the first time that they encounter someone from the system. It's sad, but most people experiencing mental health issues don't get treatment until they get incarcerated. That's sad, but it's true. So we need to be able to offer that type of treatment inside the jail and to help them. Rehab is important also, as I also mentioned. My priorities would be operations, mental health, and rehabilitation. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So you mentioned under budget and accountability. So coming in, I have this experience that taking over leadership of a law enforcement agency. So this is a little bit wider scope, being the sheriff of Clark County. And actually, it's accountability first, because the accountability is going to tell you what you need to do with your budget. I will come in and I'll look at the trouble problem spaces. You know where that is? Where's the department getting sued? Just right off the bat, that will tell me what's happening, what's going on. I will survey the people and the officers, but I'll come in, I'll want to see where are we getting sued from. And that's your tax dollars, because you're self-insured. We're paying out bad action, bad decisions, and or bad conduct than policing. law enforcement perspective and spectrum. So I will come right in, and that's what I will look at, because that's what it'll tell me. Now, I will tell you, some of it will be sustained or not, but understanding where we are and what's happening occurring, I'll leave it to you for that. That's why I'm running, okay? So with that being said, that's not everybody at the agency, but also that boils back to who is leading, who's in charge, and that gets back to culture, mindset, and focus. So I'll look at that litigation and see where you are. Then, after you look at that litigation and see exactly where you are and what is the trouble, what is the problems, then you go to budget and what are you going to do about it as a leader? Right here. I will do that. That's where you come into, you identify what that problem is, then you will apply a solution. And then working that solution, then this is what I need here to budget. Or you take the commissary money, such as you take also the asset forfeiture money, and you put it what is it actually intended for by the statute, and you train your departments. Because always you're allowed to take the money that you have to train your departments. That's what you do. You invest in your people. You put your people in a position capacity so they can still be a brother, sister, daughter, father, husband, wife. We want to keep them as a good person and employee to make sure they can perform to do what they're doing. Then they're going to be a public servant. That's what they're sworn and they took the oath to do. Then we're going to move through that process, and then that's how you get to budget and accountability. You set up an organization that where the budget is then going to support. And then if there's any elected officials there that want to be a part of what's happening, what's going on, or such as some of them that want to endorse the current conditions and the situation what they have, they should have a full understanding of what they are endorsing and what they're doing and what they're signing on to. Because if they're signing on to and they're giving endorsements to the actions and the behavior of what's happening, what's occurring now, they're signing on, accepting, taking. They're saying that the lawsuits and the conditions and what we've seen in the actions and the behavior to the Clark County Sheriff's Office and to the degree and standards of what we've seen the system coming for, as elected officials, they support and they endorse what's doing and what's going on now. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind who they are and how they're acting. So I am sitting here today. Yes, I am. I'm calling you out. Because we know what's happening, what's going on. This is not a popularity contest. This is public safety. This is quality of life. And this is people. This is not games. This is not games and giggles. This is not show. This is really what's happening occurring. They just told you, we had women that were hurt under this conditions, under this situation, what's happening occurring. And you're choosing to want to be a part of, be a side of it because some gimmick of it. That's well and fine. But I'm calling you out because that's who you are. We need people that are being responsible and accountable in these positions of capacity, being elected, and they're doing it for the right reason to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question in this section. This is going to be concerning the jail commissary fund. The jail commissary fund is made up of money from incarcerated individuals and their families. What specific safeguards will you put in place to ensure that those funds are used appropriately and transparently? We'll go with you, Kenny, and then we'll go to Ed.
Absolutely. So, such as I mentioned before, I'm going to go back. The expenses that are coming out of the commissary fund, that's going to be a running log. That's going to be a working in real life document. It's all going to be there. I'm not going to be paying anyone out. I'm not going to be utilizing and applying those funds in theory or application unless it's warranted or justified and it's reasonably the right thing to do. I have 10 years of being a professional law enforcement administrator, and as I'm here sitting today, if others try to lead you that I've mismanaged or misspent money, I would not be here today because we do have a focus and we do have an emphasis on Clark County government, and that's all the agencies that are here within here. You're not going to be sitting here, positioned here to do the job that you're going forward to do or existence allowed for bad conduct and behavior to happen to occur. There's 92 counties, but we do have a focus on us here in Clark County. I do know that and I do understand that going north here to Indianapolis. Okay, so understanding that acting with reason, acting with professional, ethical courage, and doing the right thing, not saying the right thing, but applying that in application, that's what will happen to occur. So all the documents that need to be in place, all the expenditures that are completed and performed and done the task will be justifiably. I will leave that in a place of conditions such as I did the Jeffersonville Police Department, and that's what you call succession planning. I left and I exited out as chief of police, returned to the command staff, to the merit commission proceeding, let me add, and the assistant chief moved up, the major number 3 moved up, and all the other staff, and the next promotion happened occurred within the administration. That's what leadership does. You leave things better than you found it to take and move forward. Thank you.
Okay.
Incarcerated individuals. That's kind of a real nice way of saying our neighbors, our friends, our families, people that we know, people that we love. That's what incarcerated individuals mean. Once they're incarcerated, they're vulnerable. They can't go to the local Dollar General and get a Diet Coke. They can't do that because they're incarcerated. I understand charging an appropriate price for a Diet Coke for someone that's in jail. I understand that, trying to cover the cost of the gasoline to go get it and to bring it to the jail and keep it refrigerated in the jail. I don't understand charging $6 for a Diet Coke that you bought for 89 cents. I don't understand that at all, and it shouldn't happen. Transparency and accountability are important. I think that the commissary fund should be put up on a website, Clark County Sheriff, and it should put how much we paid, what we think the surcharge should be for transporting it to the jail, and what we're going to charge for it. I think that that's the only right thing to do. It shouldn't be a personal, and it has been in the past, a personal money-making operation for a sheriff. That's just not right. I mean, who needs 133 cars in a pole barn? I don't. Would I rather treat the people correctly? The people that I'm going to run into in 5 years when they're out and they're going to come up to me and say, thank you. That's what I want. I could care less. I've got classic cars. I've got motorcycles. I don't need the job. What I do need is to make a difference in what's happening. And I think that the commissary funds have to be used appropriately and transparently. Appropriately is that you charge just enough to cover your expenses, and transparently is that you put it up on the website. I understand not allowing that Diet Coke in from the family because there could be drugs in it. I mean, that's a very, very possible thing. I understand that, but I also understand that you shouldn't charge them $8 for an 89-cent soda. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll take a question from contracts and procurement agreements. We are almost in the home stretch, gentlemen. Just hang in there. You all are doing a great job. Okay, so we'll start with you, Ed. I keep going kind of ping-ponging back and forth. Sheriff departments often enter into contracts with outside agencies, including federal partnerships. What standards should be in place before entering those agreements, and how should they be reviewed?
Let me address the giant ape in the room here. The U.S. Customs Service was the forerunner of ICE. We didn't do, when I was with Customs, we did not do immigration enforcement. That was the Immigration and Naturalization Service. We worked with them on stuff, but we did contraband smuggling, refrigerators, cocaine, heroin, stolen and pilfered artifacts from other countries. That's what we did. Interesting job. I enjoyed it. But the fact of the matter is that I understand using a state and local agency to house a federal prisoner because you're too far away. What I don't understand is when all this started, they were bringing prisoners up from the Atlanta metro area. They passed 2 prisons there and a federal prison in Lexington, Kentucky, to get here. You can't tell me that all 3 of those prisons were full. I just refuse to believe that after 31 years of being a Fed. I know better than that. I know better than that. So if we're going to house them, then we need to, number one, be sure that we have adequate staffing in place before we take them. Because if we have to hire more people, then what are we making? Are we making any money? Are we coming out even? And I think we need to get adequate compensation for our services. We're providing them with a service that they want and need. If that's the case, then they should pay for it, and we should benefit for it. If we charge a little extra, then we should take that money and hire people, train people. We should take that money and use it appropriately and constructively to the betterment of Clark County. I also have some great concerns about holding people beyond their reasonable times. Part 8 of the United States Code, Section 1325 and 1326 talks about that in particularly. You can hold somebody for up to 48 hours without a detainer. If they don't file an immigration detainer, then you need to release them. If they file the detainer, it's good, generally, the Supreme Court has said, for 6 months. So then after 6 months, after 5 months, if we haven't heard anything about them, the arresting agency and the officer is going to get a certified letter from me as the sheriff saying, in 30 days, we're going to release this individual unless you guys do something, unless it's fairly apparent that you're going to deport them or you've got other charges pending. If you don't do that, their release date is planned for 30 days from today at 2 p.m. I'll be honest with them and I'll give them a fair warning, but I'm going to hold with that. We should not be holding people unless we have an intention to do something. Thank you.
Thank you.
So answering your question, repeat that for me.
Sheriff departments often enter into contracts with outside agencies, including federal partnerships. What standards should be in place before entering those agreements, and how should they be reviewed?
So understanding if we are going to enter into a contract, does that contract work for us and what we're doing within our scope and our job performance? And then what our mission is. If it does work, and I will tell you that what I do understand, and again, speaking back with the elephant in the room, my previous experience as a correction officer at the Clark County Sheriff's Office, I do understand that our geographic location, back 33 years ago, we did see a high number, and that was under Sheriff Becker, because where we are geographically located, and I do understand what Ed did mention, but where we're geographically located and where the next point of origin in, we would see people turning, coming in and out when we were a federal detainment facility back then, and we were busy, also with Louisville. So that reason that happened caused because right now, where we are geographically located, that was one of the reasons and one of the bases. I've not had the ability right now to weigh into that. And there's other questions that have to be answered, but I can tell you from my experience, and I do understand that nature, and I can share it with you from 33 years ago. So I'm assuming and making that assumption that is some of what the factors of that decision is predicated upon, because our location and access to coming in and out of here. Second of all, those contracts, and I will touch back to that. I come from a system that every contract that I had and we held was online. So I need to find out and identify what Clark County government's doing, because I'm leaving the city of Jeffersonville government and I'm coming over to a new government structure. And then maybe you'll have to help me, Councilperson Williams, with that. But I'll have to get that information. But I just come from a system. We take the contracts, you upload them so everybody can see them. And then that way, what we have and what we're doing and who we're dealing with, you just have it at your disposal. Then if there's a question from a reporter or someone that's doing a story, they have it right hand, and that just makes it easy. So every contract that you have that you're in the scope of performance of, just load it up and put it online on that viewer. And I'm unsure if the county government has it or not, but that's what we do at the city of Jeffersonville. Then moving on with that scope and actually looking at it, what I want to say is with providing that service and what we're doing and affecting people, those inmates, I do hear and understand what was actually said, but to be able to act in that scope and accord, if you're going to release someone, we would have to have case management access. In my understanding before and what we had before, I don't believe that we had case management access on someone where they are being determined and where their case is. They're just coming in or out, and they may be here for a day or two, 24 hours. So that is our United States government, and that's at a federal level in court, but we are a detainment facility, and I do hear what was actually being said. But realistically, in telling you, I believe when they come in here, we do not locally have access to the case management structure of the adjudication process for each and every individual coming in. We've got their medical records, their health records, and what they've been screened upon and what they can and cannot have. I will tell you they have that on every person coming in. But as far as exactly where the case management and that status is for the adjudication process, I agree that would be the right and just thing to do. But I just don't believe that we do have access to that based upon my experience, my knowledge and understanding. They do not bring and deliver that here. Thank you.
Thank you. We are entering the last segment of questions. These are contrast questions, or these are questions from surveys. So these are questions that are coming from the community. So I'm going to take the second from the top, all right? So describe a time, again, these are coming from the community. Describe a time you made a difficult ethical decision in law enforcement. Kenny, go ahead and take that.
I'll take and go first. Understanding that leading an agency and organization, you have to make some decisions, happen to be every day. What I found is when you are that executive leader and everything is going good, you don't see many people in your office. My wife will tell you, you don't get many phone calls. But when it's going wrong and it's going bad, Mayor will actually tell you too, you get those phone calls. Mm-hmm. And usually people in the chain, they want to pass it up the chain, and that's where that comes. So understanding being a local law enforcement leader, being a chief of police, I had to have people there on the department. I had to discharge people properly and appropriately off the department, the right way. There is a police officer Bill of Rights, and we have to fundamentally follow that. We have to understand that that is only right now, and we have that here in Clark County, and understand we have the attorney, Counselor Dustin White. He has been the first attorney in the state of Indiana to have that win on that case and know that it wasn't properly done. So understand that the fundamental rights and due process of a police officer has to be applied. So with that actually being said, I know and understand what should happen occur within an investigation on an officer, how that process should be adjudicated, and then making that decision. So as a chief of police, I will sit here now and tell you that we did at Jeffersonville, we held account. We held account to the degree and fashion. I won't get deep into it, but I had to make a decision, and we had to discharge an officer, and where that officer is today is paying their debt to society, no longer a police officer, and they're inside our system, paying that debt back to society from being a Jeffersonville police officer. And they did not do the right thing and happened to occur. And I pray for them each and every day, and that was someone I was a friend of, involved there and close with, but the right decisions have to be made. And that paying that debt to society is incarceration. So understanding that this job, and that's what it entails of, you're electing someone to make hard and difficult decisions. And once you start engaging in the cover-up, I'm going to tell you this, the cover-up is bigger than the mess-up. That's one thing we learned at the Southern Police Institute. Dr. Byers is a graduate of that. And I'll tell you here, I love my freedom. I love my professional and ethical life of that of society. I'm not going to be a part of that type of conduct, that type of behavior. Once you start covering one thing up on an agency and organization and understand how we got there with bad conduct and behavior, that's what you get to. But it's easier to stand about and stand account. It's easier to leave and walk out of places and positions and knowing that you're doing the right thing. It's easy to understand and stand and be right and just, and it's easy to lay down and go to sleep and look people in the eyes. So making those decisions and doing the right thing, that's what we're all supposed to be taking this oath for. That's what we're all supposed to be jumping in to say, that we want to be the next sheriff of Clark County, and I can do the job and be the job, but it's standing before the people, being for the people, and serving the people. Not some of the time, not part of the time, it's all the time. And that's being here right and just. And I want to say thank you all for allowing me to be here. I also appreciate your engagement here with this and presenting the information forward and allowing me to be able to share. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ed.
You make me go back. I took my first oath to the Constitution over 50 years ago. I was the original guinea pig for computerized programs for the National Park Service for Rangers. When I transferred over to U.S. Customs, our office was one of the first offices to get computerized programs for U.S. Customs. So I'm kind of an OG in law enforcement. I've been around a while. I've survived six gunfights. And that's not the most difficult ethical decision I had to make. I mean, those were pretty clear-cut, it's me or them, and I want to go home. So that's not hard decision to make. You know what the most ethical decision which was difficult for me to make? Personal use marijuana. Now you're talking to a guy that in Nogales, I seized 490 keys of cocaine, and I also got, my last day there, 1,400 pounds of marijuana. So it's not that drug enforcement bothers me, it doesn't. But when you stop somebody that's a kid with a half a baggie of marijuana, it's hard. Do I ruin this kid's perception for life? Do I ruin this kid's perception of cops? How do I do this? And quite honestly, I just have them dump it out on the side of the road, tell them not to come back, and be done with it. It's hard. It's a hard ethical decision, and you always wonder if you make the right decision. But here's where the meat is. I will back every employee that has to make that hard decision as long as they make it with a good heart. There's a difference between malfeasance and a mistake in judgment. And I will stand by those people that make a mistake in judgment. I've made them. I haven't made them out of malfeasance, or I haven't made them because I felt bad about it. I made them because I wanted to give somebody else a chance. I wanted to take the least enforcement action necessary to reasonably ensure that it wouldn't happen again. That is the most hardest ethical decision to make. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. We're going to do one last question, and then I'll allow both of you to do just a final statement. All right. If a deputy violates policy or abuses their authority, what is your step-by-step process for handling it? We'll start with Ed and then we'll go with you, Kenny.
Every law enforcement agency lives and breathes by its policies, guidelines, and procedures. They're the very nexus of how that person should act as a cop, how that agency should respond. They're very important. Each of those individual aspects should have a graduated disciplinary action attached to it. Normally, that would be just an employee-supervisor encounter. Hey, don't do that. It's not memorialized. And then the second one would be a counseling session where the employee sits down with the supervisor and the supervisor counsels them. More an in-depth thing. That would be more memorialized in a memorandum. After that, it might be a second session similar to that with the employee, his or her supervisor, and the supervisor above him, so that it graduates up. And each time there's a severity. Okay, the next time we're going to do a PIP, a Performance Employee Improvement Program. You may be disciplined. You may have time off. You may wind up being separated from service. It all depends upon the egregiousness of the disciplinary action. Any action that appears to violate a law should be investigated by an outside, disinterested third agency, not by the sheriff's department. State police, another federal agency that has jurisdiction, whatever. They should investigate it. The sheriff's department should look at policies and procedures. Did our employee follow the policies and procedures? If they didn't, then we need to discipline them appropriately and figure out why they didn't do it, and then put measures into force to make them do that in the future. I think that it's important for trust and transparency, and transparency leads to trust. And there isn't a lot of trust in the sheriff's department now. And I think that's important. It's an important thing to do. You need to stand by your employees, but you also need to tell them, hey, we didn't want you to do this. This is contrary to what we believe in. This is what we expect you to do. So let's change that. And start with the least amount necessary and then work your way up in a graduated system. And eventually you start memorializing that in memorandums. And then if you have to go before a merit protection board or a disciplinary action, then you've got all your evidence there. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So what you mentioned is having an officer with wrongful conduct, and we have to understand if it's deliberate or intentional. But understanding there's policy procedure within the agency, the department, and also the sheriff's office has a merit commission process, and then also there's policies and procedures which run parallel. So you have to understand, as the executive leader, you have to understand what is congruent and how you're going to operate, so you don't do something like release the information, the findings out on social media. You deliver that to the merit commission and structure, which what I did for 10 years. But you also, through that course and path, you build in to that organization, you build in those supervisors and that in place. And it's at a first line level where that's going to happen occur. That's going to be at a management, that's going to be patrol level. The sheriff is not going to be, and the executive leaders are not going to be engaged, involved in that, but you build that program within your people in that structure, and that comes accordingly. Also, in taking and coming in the culture of the department and the agency with that training platform. From day one of someone coming in, they're going to know what type of agency and organization you're building, what is going to be accepted, what is going to be not, and what you wear on your sleeve and your crest and what you believe in. We do not want to be the next story news at 10 and embarrass our agency, the community we have, and our families. And understand that we're human beings, so there's going to be human error. I can accept an individual make a mistake while he or she is honestly out trying to do the best they can within a rapidly evolving tense situation in their performance, but understanding outcomes, what we will live with and what we have in our society. Can we agree to take that, and is it sustainable for a community? That's where your leadership and law enforcement president has to come forward and stand and answer to you and to give account. Critical incidents, releasing body cam video, in custody deaths, response to officers or a situation that's been released, it's up on social media, or a problem in a community, out into a residential neighborhood, out in Memphis, Indiana, so to speak, or out on Harry Hughes Road, so to speak. People deserve a call back. People deserve to know what's happening, occurring, and to give them a response and for that type of interaction. So then you have the due diligence as an executive law enforcement leader, and then you have that within your first line of supervisors and within management to be out here and to be forward and be communicating with people and understanding and giving account. And then if they're not satisfied going through the steps and through the chain, you, as a sheriff and your staff, you're there and you're available and you're willing to speak and interact with people, the public, and be forward and lead that. And that's how you build true confidence and trust in an agency, and people understand that they can have value. People can understand and know that you're out acting with law enforcement legitimacy, that we're being true and natured by our heart, by our goodwill. It's a tough, challenging, and difficult task to do. So we need to understand, and from the fundamental onset, leadership, vision, organization. One thing is mentioned, I'm going to mention here going towards the end, officer agency wellness. That's for the officers of the department, also the civilian employees. Those civilian employees are dealing with people at the window. They're in tough, challenging situations. They have loved ones incarcerated or people going to court in other situations and frustrations. And they're dealing with people day in and day out as a staff. They're also dealing with law enforcement officers, which is tough and challenging. Type A people. So you need to have a wellness demographic of a program that's reaching out to people, that is supporting their wellness and their human performance. And I mentioned that before. Husband, wives, son, daughters, brothers. We're human beings that step forward to do the challenge and to do the job and to take the oath and the commitment. So there has to be cultivating program and programming available for people to be able to humanly perform, to do this task assignment, this job that, yes, they did say they wanted to do, but we have to support them by doing that. That's not saying, hey, we got their back, but how are you going to have their back? And how did you have their back when you were a leader? You have to look at it from a fundamental scope and onset, not here, an aerial view, and it's changing. From 2015 to 2020 to 2026, it is changing, and this profession is evolving. So what is going to be your plan? What is going to be your arrangement? What is going to be your leadership? What is going to be your professionalism? How are you going to act with integrity to be the next Clark County Sheriff? Thank you.
Thank you. Is that your wrap up, or do you want a minute for the wrap up?
I'll let Ed go with his wrap up.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
I hear you, Clark County. I understand the assignment. I feel your frustration with political appointees and elected officials with no understanding of professional ethics and honor. I stood up over 4 years ago and pointed out the corruption in the Jamie Knoll case, and now you can stand with me. I'm a cop. I'm not a politician. I'm not running for power. I'm running to bring honesty and integrity back to the Clark County Sheriff's Department. I know that you're tired of political employees with no understanding of modern law enforcement and correctional techniques. You want a sheriff that will not embarrass you. I will be the Clark County Sheriff that you can be proud of. I'm an outsider to Clark County law enforcement circles. With 31 years of experience in federal law enforcement and a PhD in criminal justice from the U of L, I'm not one of the good old boys, nor do I support their system. I will not allow political influences to interfere with the honesty and integrity of the Clark County Sheriff. I'm the only person that speaks for my campaign, but I invite you to add your voice to the chorus of people that wish to fight Clark County corruption. Stand with me and vote for Ed Byers for Clark County Sheriff for true and meaningful change. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I'm here. I'm here today because I'm willing to stand. 13 minutes before it closed, February 6th, I entered into the race. I want to thank my wife for being here with me through this challenge. This has been tough. This has been a difficult task, and doing this from the ground up and grassroots. Those are supporting my campaign, thank you and value, and looking into me and giving me the chance and the opportunity. This is a reach. This is a reach of what we're doing, but I see what's happening, what's occurring. And I'm willing to step forward, and I'm willing to be here. I'm willing to take my 32-year career of law enforcement leadership and bring this here to the county and understand and know that I need to do better, and I'm willing to do better for you and be the next sheriff of Clark County. I understand where the challenges are. I understand where we've been through and where we come from, and I won't let you down. I understand that we need to change the way we're doing things, and that's what this election's about. So when I sit here and I say that, hey, we have others speaking to say to keep it the same, no, that's not what we're needing. And I ensured to enter into that race with 13 minutes left because I wanted to be personally, directly running against Sheriff Maples head-to-head in that election as that closed out to be there with him one-on-one. And that's why I'm here today and given every opportunity. As you see my campaign, my website, reach out to me. I hear you speaking as well, Clark County. I've enjoyed out here being door knocking. In Clark County, I will tell you, there's not a porch that I've been ran off of. I've been out. I tell you, this county is large, it's big, 370 miles plus, and standing out on someone in High Bernier Road last week, taking my sign without cell service and hearing what they had to say and say, thank you for coming out here and being here. From all over this county and the roads of being here and hearing what people have to say, there is an opinion, and that opinion is not in line to keep this the same. And that's exactly what I'm saying and saying it here as a professional, ethical police officer, Kenny Kavanaugh, and being elected sheriff of Clark County, I will resolve to take us forward. And I understand about challenging times, difficult situations, and I tell you, the men and women of the Clark County Sheriff's Department are doing their best day in and day out. And you're not hearing about the work and the job performance that's occurring down there because we have nonsense going on, and it's being overshadowed. There's good work by men and women that is being performed down there. I didn't know it, and it's been shared with me lately, recently, and I'll stop because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. That's sad that people are working in that type of environment, in that type of condition. But I understand it, as you've seen, what we come from, and that's why I said what I said with that video and putting it out there. It's time for us to move on. It's time for us to go forward and to change this. So anyone to say that, hey, we got to keep this the same in the system we have in place and what we have is working for us, by what we've seen and by the turnout and the count of coming in this election in a midterm election compared to 2002 and what they've told me at voter registration, the voting is up. So Clark County, I hear you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep coming out, continue to vote. Make your mind up. Understand and know that we need to make a change. And I'm willing to be here and be forward. And look here and I will tell you, look here and see who's standing forward. And look here saying, hey, I can do the job, I did the job, but there's more space and more room. But they're not here. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for running. Thank you for sharing your time and expertise. And thank you all for being here and being attentive. This is Common Conversations.